Lal Winstrom returning to the task. My device, unfortunately, lost power. And so rather than record this from scratch once again and lose the commentary that I made in the last recording, I just decided to pick this up from where we left off. Anyway, as I was saying, Ray was inadequate to the task of representing the kind of strong female personalities that have preceded her. And I named for you several of them already: Dana Scully, Ellen Ripley, Sarah Connor, and Diana, Susan Ivanova. I could name for you the supervillain Feora from the excuse me, from the 2013 version of Superman, Man of Steel, as played by the German actress, quite elegantly played by the German actress Antje Traue, if I'm not mistaken, is her name. Oh, okay, so anyway, the point is that there are many representations of what Miss Kennedy and what Mr. Abrams are trying to persuade us do not exist, or only marginally exist. And we see that this kind of ignorance, their own ignorance, which they are now trying to foist upon us who know better, this should not be accepted. And so I say to you, and I say to them, that it would have been better for them to concentrate primarily on giving us a superior story that smoothly incorporated compelling female identities, rather than a movie through which they wish to cram down our throats their Star Wars social justice experiment. And I do in fact believe that in this movie the feminist force did awake because of that reason. Another quote from Kathleen Kennedy, which says, "I don't have many choices," and here she's referring to her choices of female characters in Star Wars. But that's going to change. Going forward with all we're talking about, there are going to be a lot of wonderful new female characters. That was Kathleen Kennedy at Star Wars Celebration 2015. I argue back. Yes, Miss Kennedy, you do have cool women characters to be like and to look up to, and in more than just the Star Wars franchise, although as in previous installments, I have quoted, or should I say, I have named for you a number of different female characters in Star Wars alone that Miss Kennedy, if she should choose to look them up and recognize their existence, acknowledge their existence, she would see that they do in fact exist, and that they do in fact have a number of different compelling character traits and personality traits that she could choose to emulate and or aspire to if that is her desire. However, at the risk of redundancy, my objection to the profusion of women in The Force Awakens is not because they're women. It is the function of these women as a tool of propaganda and brainwashing that cannot be accepted. It now appears that Star Wars will become a mechanism of political correctness and 21st century women's suffrage rather than the grand operatic space adventure it was always meant to be. Women will not be incorporated into these stories because they are fascinating people with remarkable backgrounds to be explored. They will not add to the great themes of science fiction, which examines the human condition and makes insightful commentary on that condition through the guise of futuristic faraway space adventure. Their skills as fighters, leaders, or savvy scientists will not be earned nor developed, but handed to them simply because they're women. It is an absurd proposition that we are asked to accept this stupidity, and even more absurd that an iconic series like Star Wars has been corrupted, sacrificed on the altar of political correctness, female insecurities, and feminist lunacy. Kathleen Kennedy and J.J. Abrams saturated The Force Awakens with women because their agenda to see women front and center of the sci-fi phenomenon was greater than their desire to tell a genuine original story that paid homage to this giant of speculative fiction entertainment. Their aim to feminize Star Wars on behalf of a social justice crusade should not be accepted by those of us who have come to love it and its message of liberty, justice, and epic excitement. Further, there was utterly no need for this kind of brainwashing, for, as stated earlier, The examples of the types of women which Miss Kennedy and Mr. Abrams would have us either believe do not exist or do not exist in enough quantity have in fact existed for years and decades, and they have existed in a plethora of quantity. They have been heroines, villains, geniuses, morons, saints, whores, and everything in between. In other words, they have been human characters with the requisite flaws, nuances, and ambitions necessary to create personalities of depth, whom audiences could love and hate. Therefore, the idea, as Kathleen Kennedy seems to erroneously believe, that there are few women in science fiction she and other female humans can identify with is ridiculous, and it is unfounded on its face. It is a foolish perception that should no longer be accepted. Indeed, it cannot be accepted by those with knowledge of science fiction history and enough memory to count, or for those who can just know how to click a few keys on a computer and have a few basic research skills at their command. So folks, that ends that article on the social justice crusade. And I want to wrap this up by saying that this represents, in the larger scheme of things, this does represent an agenda which has been going on for some time. Now, do I believe that Mr. Abrams and Miss Kennedy have some kind of malevolent agenda behind them? Do I believe that they are part of some kind of overarching, consciously, part of some kind of overarching Marxist crusade or some other thing like this? No, I don't believe that. I think these people genuinely believe in what they believe. That is, that there is an underrepresentation of women in Star Wars in particular, and an underrepresentation of women in science fiction in general, and that they want to do their part to correct that. And this comes from their own particular experiences, perhaps in particular respect with Miss Kennedy, having come up in an era where there were fewer women in executive management, in movies and films and other things of this nature, and perhaps she does believe there needs to be a genuine belief that there needs to be more women in these types of roles. She has already articulated the idea that she would like to see more female directors in Star Wars films. So be it. But the purpose behind this should not be just to have women in positions of respect and privilege and authority because they are women. It should also be to represent the quality that these particular individuals can bring to the areas of expertise that they are being looked at for. And this is what I think should also be in the case of these films, as I have articulated in my discussion with you. If we're going to bring women characters into the storyline, and I understand the need and idea of diversity. I'm not against the idea of seeing different people in these storylines, whether they be female or whether they be blacks or Asians or Hispanics or all these other kinds of things that people want to do. The diversification of the universe, the diversification of science fiction, and bringing these different types of people, whatever their particular skin color, nationality, white, black, whoever you are. I'm really not even looking at that when I'm watching these films, although I do like to see representations of people who look like me and other things of that nature, just like anyone else does. But what I am looking at is what the kind of quality that individual brings to the film, brings to the movie, brings to the story, whether they be whatever their ethnicity or race or their sex be. Are they adding something to the film overall? And if they're not adding something to the film overall, what they look like, what they sound like is irrelevant, because they have not brought any kind of new dimension or thought processes to the film that are going to make me think differently, perhaps, or look at the situation that they are in any differently. And this is what concerns me about The Force Awakens. The use of Rey, and the use of Maze Kanata, and the use of Captain Phasma, and the various plethora of female console operators and pilots and other things that we saw was in fact not simply about the promotion of bringing a new dimension to the film, but it was in fact about this: the promotion of girl power, for the sake of promoting girl power. And I think you'll see that at the articles, the links to the articles that I have put in the description box, where particularly Mr. Abrams talks about we always wanted women to be at the center of The Force Awakens. Why? Was it because they brought something new, brought something that brought a new dimension, a deeper idea to the storyline, or was it just because you wanted to see more women? That by itself is inadequate and is a poor use of these female characters, several of which brought nothing new to the story, quite frankly. So, in any event, in my next installment, that's going to finish. That finishes up what I have to say about the social justice crusade that I saw present in The Force Awakens. And so, in my next installment and last installment, I'm going to sum up my ideas about this movie and where I think the next installments need to go in order to correct some of this foolishness that we saw portrayed in this first movie in, 10, 11 years since the Revenge of the Sith, and where these things need to go from here. And hopefully I will also be feeling better and sounding better coming to you next time. So, until then, we'll see you next time.